Okay, so of course, the name of my horror movie website is called Horror Movies Uncut, and the name of this podcast that you're going to be on is called Submissions and Slashers. So I am very, very astounded to have Miss Azura Skye in the building. What's good, lady? How you doing
Hey,
today?
thank you so much for having me, Travis. I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I'm
Well,
doing
as
fantastic.
well as can be expected, right? We're all
Exactly.
hanging in there.
So I will have to admit that, when I first saw the Swerve and I got like the initial press release stuff and all the great information that was sent, for the longest I'm sitting there and I'm like, I know who you are. I know I've seen you in other things before, but I'm like, wait a minute, is this Cassie from Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
It's Cassie. Cassie's
Yes.
back. She's all grown up and equally still completely tragic.
So I will admit that it's like I was such a big Buffy hunk growing up. I'm I think maybe just a couple years. I'm 41, so just a little older than
Okay.
you. So of course it was during my teenage years that Buffy was rolling through, and I had a huge crush on Sarah Michelle Gellar. So anytime there were new characters that were introduced, and I watched every single season of that,
Oh,
like
wow.
the little characters always are memorable on that show. And so I definitely remember Cassie. I remember her being just like all over the place on the show. And it's just like, it's awesome to see like your progression from there into now, because lady, you've been busy, like very busy.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it comes in fits and spurts. Sometimes
Right.
I'm busy, sometimes I'm not busy at all.
Yeah, I
But,
get you.
it's funny in terms of the Buffy thing. I would say, it's hard to believe, but I've been working in this business for almost 25 years. And I would say 9 times out of 10, if someone comes up to me on the street, it's
Yes.
Buffy related.
Yes, that's what
The
I was
Buffy
going to say.
fans are incredible.
Yes. I was
And you
like,
would think that they would actually be people like our age or maybe a little younger, but I get a lot of older people too.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like people in their 60s and 70s, which
Yeah.
is really surprising and cool.
I mean, rest her soul. But my grandmother used to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer with me every time I was watching
Oh,
it. Like,
I
so
love
I
that.
could totally see that.
Well,
So,
those
and
are
it's funny because
special.
that's what I was going to ask is if people did still recognize you from that, but clearly you're still
Yeah,
getting some Buffy love from some people
yeah.
when they see you.
Out of all the work I've done, it's. I think Buffy is the one that stands out the most for people.
Isn't
But
that
that's so
crazy?
sweet what you said about your grandmother. Those are
Yep.
such special memories.
Big time, big time. It's all about the memories. So first and foremost, though, how are you doing mentally during this whole pandemic and everything that's been going on? I've been, lucky enough to talk to so many people in all these previous festivals that was going on, and it's nice just to have a couple seconds to say, "Hey, how you doing?
It's
How's everything up here? How are you doing with all this stuff?"
it's so important, and it's so important to really ask in a genuine way as opposed
Yes,
to just the perfunctory way that I think
right,
we're all accustomed to.
right.
And well, thank you for asking.
Of course,
May
of
I first
course.
of all say I do appreciate it, and I'm doing okay. We've been doing this for a while now, so I think we're all kind of adjusting and um, adapting to this new normal. It's quite extraordinary how adaptable we are as human beings.
For sure. Well,
So
some of
that's been
us.
interesting too.
Some of us are adaptable. Some
Yes.
people are still having some issues trying to adapt to this
Well, yes, very true. Some are more
stuff.
adaptable than others, but I think
Yes,
humans, as a species, we're
for
supposed to
sure.
be able to be adaptable.
Yep.
Um, just like on a physiological sort of level. So,
Okay, so
at the beginning, yeah, go ahead.
I must ask because one of the things that popped up during the quarantine were all these people like weird little hobbies and things that they started doing, like bread making became a
Yeah,
thing
I
and
did
stuff.
that.
Okay, so that's
I
what I was
got on
gonna
the
say.
bread wagon.
Was you jumped on the bread wagon?
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you like did that maybe you had pushed off for a long time? Projects, maybe some books that you wanted to catch up on? I know I did a lot of reading during this time
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, I got on as I said, I started doing the bread, sourdough specifically.
Okay.
I planted a vegetable garden, as you do, as I think
Yes.
we all did,
Right.
to whatever extent you can. I got really into puzzles for a while, which I
Puzzles.
found to
Okay.
be very, very meditative.
Yeah.
But then I started feeling guilty, like, gosh, what are so many things I could be doing now, while in fact I'm spending another hour on this puzzle. But I find one thing that's been interesting is you know, I'm kind of a homebody anyway. I don't go out so much. So that hasn't been a huge adjustment for me. But I think that I've actually in some ways been more social because I don't like I'm not someone who usually just calls people and like talks on the phone, like just to chat, you know.
That's very interesting. That's
But I
very
have
interesting.
been doing that more, just reaching
Okay.
out to people. And like
Yeah.
you said, just saying like, hey, how are you doing? You
Yeah.
know, hey, you've been trapped in your kids with your,
Yeah.
I mean, with your kids and your family, you
Right.
know, in your house for the last going on, you know, a year. How are you doing? And
It's
people are struggling, you know,
yes.
everyone
Yes.
to some degree or another. So I think in some way I've actually maybe become more social, and I've forced myself to reach out more, which is important now, more important than ever.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we all, and I was talking to a couple of directors and filmmakers about this. I think when you are an actor or you're in creativeness, like we all have a little bit of introvert inside of us because we want to be focused on our projects. We want to knock off our tasks. So I appreciate the fact that you've kind of done what a lot of people did the opposite of, is instead of isolating yourself and staying away from everybody, you were like, hey, I'm out here, how you guys doing, you know, and you started to reach out to people, something that you haven't done before. So I think that's great. I think that allows growth, which I think is what people should be focusing on during this time frame. Is we have a lot of growth we can get from this time frame. It's not all just bad, you know what I mean? There's a lot of growth.
I think so too, and I think a lot of silver linings are going to come out of this.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
I think when we go through something like this, you know, as a society and on a global level, you know, when it's over, you can't just go back to the way things were. That's
For
really not an
sure.
option. You have to move forward, and you
For
have to
sure.
learn how to do things better. So,
Okay,
uh,
that's perfect segue into us talking about this amazing film called The Swerve. So I've seen this film twice now. Okay,
oh wow,
it's okay. So I'm a personal trainer, like a strength conditioning coach. So this movie hit me in a way that I don't think most African American men that are 40 years old would be affected, because your character Holly that you play in the movie, I know this woman. And the reason why I know this woman is because I train a lot of housewives. If we were to quote unquote say, you know, just the caretakers of the family is how I look at it.
yeah,
Like the ones that are doing everything for everyone. Okay. So, but to see like your progression, like, I mean, I know you from Riverdale and all types of other stuff. This character, how did you get involved with the Swerve, and what were your initial kind of thoughts on the character and how you wanted to develop the character? And I always ask people, is there somebody possibly in your life that maybe you could have used as like a muse, for the character, or was this just something of your own creation? So I know it's about 3-part question there,
yeah.
but really like kind of the inception of the Swerve and you involved in it. How did that go down?
Well, the filmmakers were aware of me. Coincidentally, I believe it was Buffy that they were most familiar with.
Why
Uh,
wouldn't they be?
so they reached out and they sent me the script. I read the script and I liked it very much, but I loved the character. I
Okay.
was like, I have to do this.
Okay. What was it about what the love? What was that stuck out about her that you were like, this, I gotta do this?
Well, I think for an actor, it's really the role of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I think you wait a whole career hoping that you get something that delicious and juicy
Mm-hmm.
and challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know, more times than not, it's just a job, and
Yeah.
it's a great job.
Yeah.
But once in a while, you get an opportunity like this, and it's a reminder of why you do this. You know,
Right.
because once in a while, not very often, maybe just a handful of times, you know, in a whole career, but you get an opportunity like this. And she was just so tragic and devastating.
Yeah.
Um,
So
uh,
have you ever, like, do you personally in your own life know anyone that may be going through some of these? Because the way that I look at it is, I think Holly resonates with so many women in this country, especially in this day and age, because the
yeah,
dynamic of the house, I mean, I see this dynamic in almost every single house. I'm a Midwestern kid.
yeah,
So I see this dynamic in almost every single house that I've ever been in, of my friends and things like that. So
Well, it's a tremendous job, and for the most part, it's very thankless, which is unfortunate. But being a caretaker and a mother and taking care of a household, I think you're constantly putting other people ahead of yourself
Mm-hmm.
because that's your job.
Yeah. Right.
But oftentimes, in doing that, you sacrifice yourself, right? And you're taking care of everyone, but you yourself are suffering because you're not able to take care of yourself in the way that you need to be cared for. So
sure.
it's really a juggling act and a very delicate balance. I would say that I know lots of people who are versions of Holly.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly, but sure. I see. I myself do not have children, so I've very cleverly avoided that whole situation.
Yes,
But I
you
do
did.
see it in my friends, and I
For
see it
sure.
with women I grew up with, and it's interesting as a kid. Your parents, they put on this sort of brave, infallible face, and then it's not until you get older and you find out some of the things they were dealing with.
Yep.
And it's like, oh wow, you were just kids yourself, and
Exactly. I mean,
we
the
had no
minute I
idea
finished.
all the stuff you were juggling and everything you
Correct.
sacrificed for us.
Yep.
But being a parent has got to be the hardest and most important job in the world.
Yeah, I mean, the key word that you said is sacrifice. Like, there's just so much sacrifice that's going on, and it is a thankless job. The first time I watched the movie, like, my mom just moved to East Africa. She's in Rwanda now.
Oh wow,
She's like, I'm done with America. She burnt out, like, and she's
that's
loving
amazing.
it. Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie. After I watched the movie, I called her and we Skyped for like an hour, and I was like, you know what, Mom, I'm sorry. Like, I know I'm terrible. Like, all the stuff that I did, like, and I was a single kid, so I wasn't as bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I had to
no.
become very independent. Do you feel like okay, so when you do a movie like this, and of course none of us were expecting this pandemic to happen and just this shutdown. And are you in California?
I am, yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I just recently was in LA, and I got a lot of friends and buddies out there, so I've seen the toll that it has taken on the industry. How hard is it? Because you know how great this film is. You know how much you want people to see this film. How hard is it to promote a movie like The Swerve during this pandemic? And what type of challenges have you guys seen? And also, on the other end of that, what have been some of the good things that you've been able to do a little differently with this kind of pandemic and selling the movie and promoting the movie during this time?
Yeah, well, it's been interesting. Obviously, all the press has been very different than it would usually be. I've never left my house. I assure you, I am wearing pants right now. I promise.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. This is a family show right now, so I appreciate that.
But it's actually been kind of nice. I'm just, you do a little movie like this, and I've worked so much in independent films. You never really know if anyone's going to see your movie. You put all this work and time into something, and it's just sort of the nature of the business. So I'm thrilled that this film is finding a home and that people are seeing it. Mm-hmm. I wish we could promote it more, but obviously we're limited given the current circumstances. But I also think that maybe this film resonates more with people now than it would have, say, a year or two ago.
For sure.
Because it does deal so heavily with mental health, mm-hmm. and isolation and just mental struggle. Yeah. And I think everyone is struggling right now, some more than others, but I wonder if it's more relatable now for that reason.
So there's so many like depths that we could go into with the Swerve and the characters and stuff like that. But I'm always curious to like the interaction on set when you guys were putting the film together. Like, how was it dealing with your director, your cast? I mean, you got some pretty great, like there's a fantastic cast in this movie, which
fantastic,
like from top to bottom. like the sons are my high school kids that I train. You know what I mean? So like it's just this movie is too real. I'm sorry, like it's just too real.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So tell me, I'm sorry, like you have no idea. Like the oldest son, I got about 4 of those that I train.
Okay.
You know, and I feel for their moms, and I'm always talking to their moms, being like, "Hey, what's up with your mom?" You know. So when you're making a movie like The Swerve and you see all these characters, like how was it on set? How was everything put together on set? Like how you guys flow? How was everything on set?
Set was lovely. It was important that we kept a certain amount of levity in the mood because it was such a heavy, gut-wrenching project that we were doing. So I think the only way to really handle that was to keep things pretty lighthearted. Your comment about the cast couldn't be more true. They were so fantastic. There was not a weak link among them. So I just felt so fortunate to be in their company. And we all got along really well. There wasn't a lot of time to get to know each other ahead of time. We all just kind of, showed up and dove right in. But that's usually how it is.
That's amazing. Well, I thank you so much for your time. I could talk to you forever. Like this, I mean, I love this movie. I can't wait for so many people to see it. What is the last thing I just want to ask is, what is it that you really want people to take from The Swerve when they see this film? Like, what is your kind of, what would you like to see people take from the movie?
I would like, well, first of all, I love that it made you call your mother.
Yes, big time.
I hope everyone watches this film and promptly calls their mother. By the way, my mother's not allowed to see it.
No, I don't want my mom to see it.
She has no interest in seeing it. She's like, yeah. She was like, I'm sure you did a great job. I'm not.
That's rude.
But I would say I hope what people take from this film is to remember that you never really know what's going on with someone. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, even the people closest to you, sometimes, your closest friends or family or even your spouse, you don't really know what's going on with them. And obviously, that's the case for strangers, know. So many times in our day, well, not now as much as we used to, but we also used to go, about our days in the normal sense. Just so many people you pass on the street in a given day, or the person who's next to you at the grocery store. I would say, don't assume that you know what's going on with that person. They might be having an absolutely hellish and arduous day. You don't know what their life is.
Yes.
So treat everyone with a little care and a little kindness.
Yes. Be kind.
Be kind.
As the old saying goes, never judge a book by its cover.
That's right, which is so hard to do, by the way, I find when I'm in a bookstore looking at books. I'm like, oh, that looks good.
Like, that looks terrible.
Look at that nice artwork on the cover, right? But
2 chapters in, you're like, why did I buy this? Like,
exactly.
Well, Azura, thank you
by its cover.
so much for being on the Submissions and Slashes podcast. We will for sure, with Horror Movies Uncut, be on top of every project in regards to genre films that you might be involved in the future. So hopefully one day we'll be able to talk to you again in the future. But thank you so much for all your time. We really appreciate it.
I would love that, Travis. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Be safe. Wear your mask. And I will see you next time. Okay?
Okay. Take care. Be well.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Ciao.